Okay, Rabbi, so I think we're going to get started. Happy Purim, everyone. We're on Daf Memhei Amud Aleph at the Mishnah. The Mishnah is based on a pasuk in the Torah that talks about the obligation to destroy Avodah Zarah when you encounter it in Eretz Yisrael. The pasuk reads as follows, and I'll just introduce this Mishnah with the pasuk. Abeita abedun es kol hamekamos asher avdu sham hagoyim. Destroy all the places that the nations have worshipped. Asher atem yorshim osam es Elohehem. That you shall, all of the places where you are inheriting, where they made into gods. Al heharim haramim ve'al hagevaos, upon the lofty mountains and on the hills, v'sachas kol eitz ra'anan, and beneath every tree, ra'anan. I'm not sure what the literal translation of ra'anan, but underneath every single tree. So that's the pasuk. Now the question is, what are we learning from this pasuk? You'll see in a moment how the Mishnah interprets the pasuk. The Mishnah now says, "Hanochrim ha'ovdim es heharim ve'es hagvaos, hein mutarin umasha alein asurin." That if an idolater goes ahead and worships a mountain or a hill, he declares the mountain to be his deity. So then the mountain is not asur bahana. A heathen does not have the ability to take something that is part of the land, the part of the topography, and turn it into avodah zarah. So therefore, if I want to benefit from the mountain, I want to plant on the mountain, or I want to quarry from the mountain, I want to mine from it, it's perfectly fine. Shenemar lo sachmod kesef v'zahav aleihem. As the pasuk says, you shall not desire the silver and the gold that is on top of the mountains. So it's only that which is on top of the mountain which is asur, but not which is the mountain itself. And also what the way that the Chachamim are interpreting the pasuk is that it's only the gold and silver that are attached to the mountain. Okay, and Rabbi Yossi Haglili Omer, Elohehem al heharim, velo heharim Elohehem. Elohehem al hagvaos, velo hagvaos Elohehem. And Rabbi Yossi Haglili says you can find that in the pasuk itself, because the pasuk says al heharim haramim, ve'al hagvaos, on top of the mountains and the hills is their God, but not the mountain and the hills itself. Okay? So, umipnei ma ashera asura. Well, if that's the case, says the Mishnah, then why does a tree become an Asherah tree, which is an idolatrous tree that has to be burned? It's part of the ground. So the Gemara answers, mipnei sheyesh ba tfisas yedei adam, v'chol sheyesh ba tfisas yedei adam aser. And the answer is because a tree has human intervention, meaning that a human planted the seed or the acorn to grow the tree. And so that in itself causes the tree to be subject to becoming asur because of idolatry. Now, you could ask a question. What about a tree that was not planted for idolatry, and it was only after the fact that it was made into an idolatrous tree? That's going to be the subject of our discussion when we turn the page. Amar Rabbi Akiva, ani ovin ve'adun lefanecha. So Rabbi Akiva says, let me help you understand and adjudicate the pasuk. Kol makom she'atamotze har gavoa v'giva nisa'a ve'itz ra'anan da sheyesham avodas kochavim. Any place where you find a lofty mountain or a hill or a very lush and very hardy tree, you should know that underneath there you will find avodah zarah. So what is Rabbi Akiva coming to explain? According to Rashi, what he's saying is as follows. Look, the first part of the pasuk, al heharim haramim ve'al hagvaos, Rabbi Yossi has already explained what those words are coming to teach me. That the mountain itself is not idolatry, only that which is on top of the mountain is idolatry. So when the Torah says, v'tachas kol eitz ra'anan, I would think that it's coming to tell me that only what's beneath the tree, but not the tree itself. But I can't say that. How do I know? Because there's another pasuk that says, Va'asherehem tisrifun ba'esh, that you have to burn down Asherah trees. So clearly trees are not included in that category of mountains and hills. So then the question becomes, why then does the Torah write V'tachas kol eitz ra'anan if it's not coming to teach me that the tree is not subject to idolatry? The answer is that the words V'tachas kol eitz ra'anan is coming to teach me not a halachic guide for what is and isn't idolatry, but it's rather giving me a map of where I can find idolatry. Where are you going to find idolatry? Eretz Yisrael is so laden with idolatry. When you first come into Eretz Yisrael and you want to know where you're going to find it, look on tall mountains, look on hills, and look under lush and hardy trees. That's where you'll find idolatry. The Gemara now says, Rabbi Yossi Haglili Hainu Tanakama. So the first question is, the Chachamim and Rabbi Yossi Haglili don't seem to be arguing. They're both saying that mountains and hills are not subject to idolatry. But the Chachamim learn it from one pasuk, based on this pasuk that says only the kesef and the zahav, the removable items that are attached to the mountains are aser. And Rabbi Yossi Haglili learns it from the preposition in the pasuk that we started with, which is al heharim, on top of the mountains and on top of the hills, but not the mountains and the hills themselves. But what's the practical difference in halacha? So Amar Rami Bar Chama Amar Reish Lakish, tzipoi har kehar ika beinayu. There is a practical halachic difference. That the difference is, do we say that a plating that is placed on top of a mountain, a gold plate, you know, when you plate something with gold or you plate something with silver on top of the mountain, is that considered to be part of the mountain or not? Tanakama savar tzipoi har eino kahar. The Tanakama holds that that's not the mountain itself, even though it conforms to the contours of the mountain, and it really just a thin layer of silver and gold. It's not the mountain itself, and therefore can be subject to becoming usher because of avodah zarah. Umitzar. And Rabbi Yossi Haglili savar tzipui har harehu kahar. And Rabbi Yossi Haglili says no, only things that are recognizably on top of the mountain, like a statue, but something that's just a regular plating, a thin plating of silver or gold that contours to the mountain, is considered like the mountain itself and cannot therefore become usher. Rav Sheshes Omer dekuli almat tzipoi har eno kahar. Rav Sheshes disagrees, and he says that everyone agrees that a plating of gold and silver is not the mountain itself and therefore can become usher. V'hacha be'ilan shenita'o ulebasof avado kamiflagi. But what's the real machlokas between the Chachamim and Rabbi Yossi Haglili? What if there's a tree that was originally planted for non-idolatrous purposes, and then someone came along and decided to worship the tree and make it into an Asherah? Tanakama savar ilan shenita'o lebasof avado mutar, v'Rabbi Yossi Haglili savar ilan shenita'o lebasof avado asur. So that's the machlokas. The Tanakama holds that a tree that was originally planted for completely inert purposes, is perfectly fine, and therefore no one has the ability to afterwards designate it as idolatry. And Rabbi Yossi Haglili says no. Even if it was planted for innocent reasons and then someone else came and worshipped it afterwards, that worshiper turns it into an idolatrous tree, and it's aser. So mimai, and how do I know that that's the subject of their machlokes? Midikitani seifa, mipnei ma ashera asura, mipnei sheyesh ba tfisas yedei adam, v'chol sheyesh ba tfisas yedei adam asur. So the answer is because we know that that's the discussion that follows in our Mishnah. The Mishnah says, why is it that trees are subject to avodah zarah? Because anything that involves human intervention is subject to idolatry. And since a tree is subject to human intervention because a human being normally plants the acorn, so therefore it's subject to avodah zarah. V'chol sheyesh bo tfisas adam la'asuyei mai, lav la'asuyei ilan sheneta'o lebasof avado. And the word v'chol, which is a reboy phrase, it's coming to be inclusive, is coming to tell me that even if it was planted innocently, and then afterwards someone came to worship it, that's still going to be usher. And so therefore, this is part of Rabbi Yossi Haglili's statement, and this is where he disagrees with the Tanakama. In other words, The Tanakama holds that only silver and gold which are afterwards attached to the ground are asur, but something that is mamish part of the ground is always going to be mutter. And that's why we know that the Tanakama holds that if it was not attached to the ground, if that acorn was not put into the ground for idolatrous purposes, even if afterwards someone wishes to designate it as idolatry, it's going to be mutar. But Rabbi Yossi Aglili says, Kol sheyesh bo tfisas adam. Anything that had human hands involved in its production, including trees that were planted innocently, are subject to idolatry. Now, so that's the machlokes. Va'af Rabbi Yossi b'Rebbi Yehuda Sovar ilan sheneta'o lebasof avado asur. And by the way, I'm about to demonstrate to you that not only does Rabbi Yossi Haglili of our Mishnah hold that way, but even a different Rabbi Yossi b'Rebbi Yehuda, holds that way as well. The Tanya Rabbi Yossi b'Rebbi Yehuda Omer, mitoch shenamar Eloheihem al hehorim, velo hehorim Eloheihem, Eloheihem al hakvos, velo gevos Eloheihem. He says, because what does the pasuk say? The pasuk says, only on top of the mountains is their God asur, but the mountain itself is not asur. Only on top of the hills is asur, but the hill itself cannot become asur. Shomeya ani tachas kol eitzra anan Eloheihem, velo eitzra anan Eloheihem. So that would seem to imply that if I want to be consistent in the pasuk, the words v'tachas kol eitzra anan is telling me that only that which is beneath the tree is asur, but not the tree itself. So Talmud Lomar va'ashereihem tisrifun be'esh. So therefore the pasuk says, no, you have to burn all Asherah trees. So even trees are subject to the Isser of Avodah Zarah. Elatachas kol eitzra anan lamali, hahu lichad Rabbi Akiva hu da'asa. So, and this is, by the way, this is just explaining what we already explained on the Mishnah. So therefore, what is tachas kol eitzra anan coming to explain? It's not coming to exclude the tree, because clearly the Torah prohibits the tree itself. It's coming for Rabbi Akiva's purpose. Rabbi Akiva, ani ovin va'adun lefanecha. Kol makom she'ata motzei har gavoa v'giva nisa ve'etzra anan da sheyesham avodas kochavim. That Rabbi Akiva says, let me explain to you. Any place where you find the words v'tachas kol eitzra anan are coming to just tell you a landmark. You should just know that when you come into Eretz Yisrael and you're going to want to know where can I find idolatry that I'm obligated to destroy, it'll be on mountains, it'll be on hills, and it'll be under lush trees. Now, v'Rabbanan, hai va'ashereihem tisrufun ba'esh. Now, the question, of course, is, where do you see from this brisa of Rabbi Yossi b'Rebbi Yehuda that he says that a tree that was planted innocently and then is later worshipped is subject to Avodah Zarah? It's not explicitly stated over here, but since Rabbi Yossi b'Rebbi Yehuda is talking about trees, so you're going to see that the Gemara is going to speak it out. So, like Rashi actually helps us a little bit in our understanding of this brisa. If you take a look at Rabbi Yossi b'Rebbi Yehuda Savar Ilan Shenatol B'Sof Avado Asur, he holds that if it's planted innocently and then later worshipped, it's asur. He says, Midika Amar Delo Darshinan Velo Eitzra Anan Eloheihem. He says he could have understood that the words V'tachas kol Eitzra Anan is excluding a certain kind of tree. What kind of tree is it excluding? It's excluding a tree that was planted innocently and then later worshipped. But the fact that he says that that's not what that phrase is coming to exclude teaches me that he holds that all trees are subject to idolatry, even trees that have been planted innocently and then later are worshipped. So that's the way, says Rashi, that we see that Rabbi Yehuda also agrees with Rabbi Yossi Haglili that any tree is subject to idolatry, even a tree that was planted innocently. Next, so v'Rabbanan, hai va'ashereihem tisrafun ba'esh, mai avdilei. So now the question is like this. The Chachamim apparently disagree with Rabbi Yossi b'Rebbi Yehuda, and they hold, like the Tanakam of our Mishnah, that any tree that is planted innocently cannot later become subject to avodah zarah. So what did they do with the words va'ashereihem tisrufun ba'esh? Why is there an obligation to burn Asherah trees? They say that pasuk is only talking about a tree that was originally planted for avodah zarah, an acorn that you planted for growing an avodah zarah tree. So therefore, they'll look at the pasuk of the tachas kol eitz ra'anan and they'll say that phrase is coming to tell me that sometimes trees are not subject to idolatry, and only that which is beneath the tree is idolatrous. And when are trees not subject to idolatry? When they were planted innocently. When does the Torah say, Va'ashereihem tisrufun ba'esh? When it was planted deliberately for avodah zarah. V'Reb Yossi b'Reb Yehuda nami miboy le'lahachi. Now, how does Reb Yossi b'Reb Yehuda deflect that charge? In other words, Reb Yossi b'Reb Yehuda said, no, all trees are subject to idolatry even if they're planted innocently. And he says, I know that from Va'ashereihem tisrufun ba'esh. But that's not proof. Maybe Va'ashereihem tisrufun ba'esh is only talking about trees that were planted initially for that purpose. So hachanami, ela ilan shenata'ola basof avado minale. So you're right. Where then does he get this idea that if you planted it innocently, it could still be subject to avodah zarah? Nafgolei me va'ashereihem tigadeun. He says, because there's another pasuk that says, their Asherah trees you shall chop down. Now, why use the term chop down? It seems to imply that you're allowed to leave the stump of the tree. Why am I allowed to leave the stump of the tree? Because at that point, at the stump, it was not yet designated as avodah zarah. Only the growth that comes after I've designated it as avodah zarah must I destroy. Okay, so ezehu eit shegiduo asur v'ikaro mutar, hevei omer ilan shenetao labasof avado. So therefore, what kind of tree is only the aftergrowth is asur? But the root system can stay where it is. It must be a tree that I planted initially for innocent purposes, and then later I worshipped it. V'ha va'ashereihem tisrufun ba'esh kanasiv la talmuda. So now wait a minute. Hold on a second. The way that you're now explaining it, Rabbi Yossi b'Reb Yehuda does not learn out from the words va'ashereihem tisrufun ba'esh that a tree that was planted innocently is still subject to idolatry. He learns it from va'ashereihem tigadeun. So did we not quote the wrong pasuk previously? If he's learning it out from va'ashereihem tigadeun, why did the Brisa previously quote va'ashereihem tisrufun ba'esh? So the Gemara says, ilu lo nemar ka'amar. Yes, you're right. But it's almost like saying, hypothetically, if it hadn't said this, I would resort to this. Meaning as follows. Ilu lo nemar tisrufun ba'esh. If the Torah had not given me a pasuk of, you shall burn down the Asherah tree entirely, hayisi omer va'ashereihem tigadeun be'ilan sheneta'o mitchila lekach. I might have thought that the pasuk of va'ashereihem tigadeun is only referring to a tree that was planted initially for idolatry, and only that kind of tree is asur. But hashda dichsiv va'ashereihem tisrufun ba'esh, aitur le va'ashereihem tigadeun le'ilan sheneta'o labasof avado. But now that I have both psukim, I have the pasuk of va'ashereihem tisrufun ba'esh, which tells me that when it was planted initially for idolatry, it's asur. I have the extra pasuk of va'ashereihem tigadeun to teach me that even if it was planted innocently, not for the purpose of avodah zarah, that tree can also become asur as well. V'rabbanan. So now the chachamim are in a sort of against the wall. We've seen from Rabbi Yossi b'Reb Yehuda, I have two psukim that refer to the Asherah tree. One is addressed, according to Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda is addressing the tree that was planted initially for avodah zarah, and the other one is addressing the tree that was planted innocently. According to the Chachamim, however, a tree that was planted innocently is not subject to an Asherah, to be an avodah zarah tree. So what did they do with the second pasuk? The Rabbanan hai va'asherim tigadeun mai avdilei l'chad Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. For Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, the Amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, giduei avodas kochavim kodmim lekivush Eretz Yisrael. Kivush Eretz Yisrael Kodem Levir Avodas Kochavim. They learn it to teach me the proper sequence of destroying idolatry when you come into Eretz Yisrael. And the instruction of Va'asherayim Tegadeun is therefore telling me as follows. It's got nothing to do with a tree that was planted innocently. It's coming to tell me when you come into Eretz Yisrael, you're going to encounter a whole new world. What am I supposed to do first? If the obligation would be that you have to completely uproot and destroy every single Asherah tree, that exercise, that project is going to be so time-consuming that you won't have an opportunity to go out to war and to conquer the land. So here's what you need to do. When you encounter an Asherah tree, chop it down to a stump. That's a relatively quick project. Yeah, right. And then go out and conquer Eretz Yisrael. Right? Get rid of the idolatrous nations and settle the land. And then when that's taken care of, go back to all of the stumps and uproot them. That's simply what the Torah is telling you. It says first, Va'asherehem tegadeun, first chop them down to a stump, and then Va'asherehem tisrufun ba'esh, then when you've finished with all of the conquest issues, come back and then uproot them completely and burn them completely. It seems to be only a halach in Eretz Yisrael. Now, whether or not the laws of Asherah apply in Chutz La'aretz is a very good question. The pasuk seems to be addressing only Eretz Yisrael, but the fact that an avodah zarah can become asur seems to apply even in Chutz La'aretz. How you deal with an Asherah tree in Chutz La'aretz is not, I don't think, is undertaken by the Gemara, but maybe we'll see later. The Tani Rav Yosef v'ni tatztemes mizbechosam v'hanach v'shibartem es matzevosam v'hanach. And Rav Yosef taught this. Rav Yosef rather presented this in a brisa. The Torah says, destroy their altars and leave them. In other words, lehatitz is to dismantle. Dismantle their altars and then leave them. In other words, you don't have to mamish destroy them, just dismantle them. And break their monuments and then leave the pieces alone. So, v'hanach sal gedaitach sreifa boy. Can that really be said? Doesn't the Torah obligate us to completely obliterate idolatry? So I have to completely burn it. So Amar Rav Huna. So Rav Huna therefore explains the pasuk Hanach uridof, v'achar kach sarof. So the answer is you have to first, leave it alone after you've broken the monument, then pursue all of the enemies, the idolatrous nations, and get them out of Eretz Yisrael. And then, when you've done that project, come back and obliterate completely the pieces and shards of the dismantled altars and the monuments. So that's the same idea by an Asherah tree. Now, Rabbi Yossi b'Reb Yehuda haisvar minole. Now, since Rabbi Yossi b'Reb Yehuda uses the two psukim addressing the Asherah tree to tell me that two types of trees are asur, one is the one planted for Asherah and the other one is planted innocently, so then how does he know this idea about the sequence of first chop it down to a stump, then conquer the land, and then come back and uproot it? So nafkule me abeid ta'abedun. Abeid v'achar kach ta'abedun. The answer is that he learns it from the double language of destruction when the Torah talks about abeid ta'abedun es kol ha'mekomos. You shall completely destroy all of the places. Why does the Torah use the double language? It's coming to teach me, first, do the initial stage of destroying, which is break it or cut it down to a stump, and then afterwards, after you've done the conquest, come back and finish the job. V'Rabbanan hamiboyle la'oker avodas kochavim shetzarich l'shareish achareha. And the Chachamim look at that double language and they say that that's not what the double language is coming to teach, but rather it's coming to teach that when I obliterate avodah zarah, I have to be completely thorough. I can't say, well, since it's no longer usable, I finished the job. No, abeid ta'abedun means I must utterly destroy everything that I encounter. I have to completely uproot. It's not just enough for me to raise something to the ground. If I know that something is below the ground, that is part of the Asherah tree structure, I have to go even underground and completely get it. That's what the words abeid ta'abedun are coming to teach. V'Rebbi Yossi b'Rebbi Yehuda l'sharei shachareha minole. So Taka, how does he know that if he uses the double language of Abeta Abedun for another purpose? Nafgalei me v'ibadetem es shemam min hamakom hahu. He says there's another phrase that is superfluous that teaches me that principle of you shall completely destroy their name from that place. That tells me that I have to even uproot that which is underground. The Rabbanan. But the Chachamim tell you that's not what those words are coming to teach. Hahu, that phrase is lechanos la'ashem. That's, what does it mean to destroy their name? That means a totally different halacha. That when you are coming to destroy an idolatry, not only must you physically destroy the idolatry, but you have to destroy the intellectual avodah zarah as well. In other words, if there's any remnant of the avodah zarah in the vocabulary of the culture, you have to obliterate that cultural, intellectual idea as well. And what that means is that if, let's say, there was, as we'll see in a moment, if there was an idolatry with a certain name, you have to alter the name to make it a degrading kind of word, as we'll see in just a moment. The Tanya, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Minayin la'okir avodas kolchavim shetzarach l'sharei shachareha. And this is the Brisa. The Brisa says, according to Rabbi Eliezer, how do I know that a person who is going to uproot avodah zarah, he has to even go below ground to completely remove all the root system? Talmud v'ibadetem es shemam. Therefore, the Torah says, destroy their name. So Amar lo, that seems to be like Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda. So Amar lo Rabbi Akiva valo. That seems to be like the Chachamim. Sorry. So Amar lo Rabbi Akiva valo kvar nemar abeita abedun. So I'm sorry. That seems to be like Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda. So comes along Rabbi Akiva and he says, but you already have the double language of abeita abedun to tell me that you have to uproot even things below ground. Imkain matamulomar v'ibadetem eshemam. So therefore, Taka, according to Rabbi Akiva, what is v'ibadetem eshemam? Destroy their name coming to teach. Min hamakom hahu lechanos l'shem. You have to give it a new name. In other words, you have to completely remove even the intellectual name of the idolatry from the cultural vocabulary. So you have to change its name now and give it a totally new name. So yachol l'shevach, you might think that you can use a new name which is praiseworthy of the idolatry. In other words, let's say the idolatry's name was Ishtar. Which, by the way, that's Esther. But forget about that for a second. Let's say the idolatry's name is Ishtar. So you might think that you can, instead of calling it Ishtar, you can call it the rose of the morning, right? Something very nice sounding. So the Gemara says, L'shevach salkadaitach. Why would you even think that? Why would you want to change it into something that's nice? You certainly wouldn't think that that's what the Torah wants you to do. So you might think, no, just change its name to something that sounds different, but it's neither derogatory nor praiseworthy. So if the idolatry was previously Ishtar, just call it Tishtar or Sishtar. Just give it a totally nonsensical name, and maybe that's sufficient, right? No, Talmud Lomar shaketz tishat ketzenu v'sa'ev tisa'avenu kicherem hu. And therefore the Torah says, no, you shall shaketz tishat ketzenu, turn it into something disgusting. V'sa'ev tisa'avenu, and turn it to something abominable. In other words, make it despicable is what the Torah wants us to do with idolatry, because it is completely forbidden. So ha-ketzad, so give me an example. Ha-yukorenosa beis galya, korenosa beis karya. If previously the idolatry was known as beis karya, we change its name now to beis karya. Now what is beis karya? So the words beis galya, Rashi says, refers to something lofty. Galei, waves or piles of something, right? Beis karya is digging a ditch. So it used to be insinuating something very high and tall. And now you change its name to something very lowly and ditchy. So Ein Kol, if the idolatry's name was the eye of all, so Ein Kotes, turn it now to the eye of the thorn. So that's not something that sounds very pleasant, so right? So these are all examples of how you have to change the name of the idolatry. I'll tell you something very interesting that's related to this. Sefer Hasidim quotes this halacha from the Gemara in Avodah Zarah and says that you have to do the same thing to Christian icons as well, curiously enough. And the example that he gives is Saint Peter. He says, instead of calling him Peter, which is Peter, you call him Peter Chamor. You call him the first issue of the donkey's first issue of the womb, right? And that, by the way, is a whole subject of, because that very same Sefer Hasidim says that this halacha applies even to people like Peter who acted l'shem shamayim in becoming part of the Christian sect. So what does that mean? What does that mean? It means that according to tradition, Peter, whose name was Shimon, was a pious Jew, and he agreed to become the first Pope of Rome in order to completely segregate Christianity from Judaism. That's a common theme in Toldos Yeshu and other texts that talk about the origins of Christianity. Originally, the Christian sect was very similar to Judaism, and there were Jews who infiltrated the network, the sect, and completely changed it, made it more like an idolatrous sect than a variant of Judaism, in order that people should not get confused. And even though Shimon, Peter, who became later known as Peter, that was his objective. Nevertheless, we change his name to Peter Chamor because we want to make sure that people don't attach themselves to it. So that's the reason for being derisive to things that were previously idolatry. Have a wonderful day. Afreilich and Purim.